good morning. Let's go ahead and finish up our story for the day. Like I said, this has been a three-part story. The one about after the war, and we've been learning about Zoli and the orphanage. It's called When the War is Over. All right, so let's look at page 210 in your reader book, and at the very top there's a little section in italics that's called a head note, and I'm going to read that. It kind of gives us an idea of what's going on right now. Now, Zoli and his men were stopped by American soldiers, but were released because the war was nearly over. Zoli and his family go home to Hungary, where Danny has been waiting for them near the old orphanage. But the Russians are taking Hungary by force, and once again Zoli must flee an enemy. He, Ilona, their sons, and Danny pretend to have a picnic near the Austrian border. Then they must decide if they will make a run for freedom through a farmer's fields. All right, so let's look at there are three words we may run across, or that we will run across in the story. I just want you to know what they mean. So the strong wind rustled the leaves in the night air. I'm sure you know what that means. The leaves just kind of moved in the wind. To hide from the enemy soldiers, the family quietly crouched behind the big bushes. Crouched means to kind of get down low. I'm sorry, my computer froze. Soldiers put hidden landmines in the ground by burying the explosives in shallow holes. Landmines are going to be bombs that are placed in the ground that once they're stepped on or triggered somehow, they blow up. So that's what those are. All right, so let's look in our reader book on page 210. And we're going to read the last part of the story, and it's called A Run for Freedom. And look at the date. This is 3 years later. This is in 1947. All right, so the corn rustled around us. I gathered Ilona, Henrik, Coleman, and Danny to me. I love you, I said to them. Remember that. We started down the rows, planted so as to lead those who dared to freedom. Just keep walking straight down the corn rows. Follow the row, Henrik. I picked Coleman up and carried him. The lifeless stalks rattled in the rain and with our passing. The darkness deepened. The searchlights from the guard towers at the end of the field switched on and passed over the corn. Papa, look at the lights. Shh! Why? Shh! The lights came over us and we froze. The white beams flowed on by and we moved again. The rain was like silver needles in the lights. Water ran down my face, down inside my shirt. Danny, a gray movement just 2 rows over, held his hand over my eyes to block the flow. My heart pounded now, not from the walking, but from the last terror I had not told them of. The leaves of the corn scraped by my face, rasped on my ears. Coleman fell asleep on my shoulder. Suddenly I was aware that Henrik was not beside me. Stop! I thrust Coleman into Ilona's arms. I started back through the row, looking with more than normal sight into the black and muddy world. Henrik! I ran then, beating the stalks away from me. Son! Between my gasps for air, I heard, Papa! Papa! I went across the rows toward the sound. Henrik, call to me! Suddenly he was ahead of me, running toward the station again. I overran him and grabbed him. Henrik, what are you doing? Oh, Papa, he said, I was running after you. I held him to me until I thought I would crush him. You got turned around, son. I fell, Papa. His tears were heavier than the rain. It's all right now. Papa found you. Papa found you. We went on again. I carried Coleman and held Henrik's hand. At last the corn thinned out, and we were at the edge of a great plowed field. On the other side was the wire, the flimsy, terrible border. We crouched in the corn. They waited for me to speak. The rain drove down on us, splattering and rattling on the stalks. When the lights passed over a second time, I drew in a deep breath. Some borders have landmines, some don't. There was no answer from anyone. Finally, Ilona's voice came to me, hardly above the noise of the rain. How do we know? We don't. Again, there was no speaking. At last, Danny said, As God wills, I say. Yes, said Ilona. I felt for their hands, one then the other. When I say to go, we all go together. Henrik, do you understand? Yes, Papa. Danny said, I've got him. The rain was pounding now. We were soaked. the water running into our shoes. The army kept the ground plowed smooth to look for footprints, but I was sure this rain would make our secret to the stream would take our secret to the streams. I watched for the lights to pass once more. Now! We ran. The mud caked to our shoes and our legs, slowing us down. Ilana struggled, and I took her by the arm and lifted her. The lights arched on the far end of the field and started back for us. We were but seconds from the border. God, I cried out, help us. The lights swept through again, but this time we were behind their range. We were over the wire, all of us. I dropped to my knees in the Austrian soil, holding my sons to me, and in the pouring rain I wept. And there's a picture of he and his family in America. By this time they had 3 kids. So they made it. What a difficult thing to have to go through, wasn't it? All right, do you think it's easy or difficult decision for Zoli to decide to leave Hungary, to run for it? Do you think it was hard for him to make that decision? I think so, because he wasn't just putting his own life at risk, it was his whole family. So they decide to run after it. Look at page 211. There's a simile on this page. Remember, a simile is something that compares two things and it uses like or as. What simile does the author use to describe the rain in the cornfield? It is on page 211 in the very first paragraph. You see the sentence that says the rain was like silver needles in the lights? That's a simile, comparing the rain to silver needles. Whom did Zoli carry on his shoulders? Coleman, because he was small, keeping him behind because he couldn't walk as fast as they could. What would it be like to live in a country with no freedom like they were? Wouldn't that be awful? You wouldn't be able to go to the store when you want. You wouldn't be able to buy whatever you want. You wouldn't be able to do anything. Sometimes you couldn't even wear what you want. You'd have to do everything the government told you to do. And there are still places like that today. We should pray for them. Look at page 212. What could be in the ground from the end of the cornfield, from the edge of the cornfield to the fence? Landmines. But they don't know, do they? They completely put their full trust in God. And on page 212, at the very top of the second column, he says, again there was no speaking. At last Danny said, as God wills, I say. In other words, they're saying we're doing it, and God's going to, whatever his will is, we're good with it. And so they were able to get across. Okay, let's look at our work text page. We have one work text page today, and it's a page that I'm going to grade, and you're going to do this yourself. It's page 86 in your work text. So you're going to read each little section, and you're going to fill in the solution to the problem, how Zoli solved the problems that he faced. Okay, there are 6 problems, 6 questions, and those are going to be for you to do on your own. You can always go back and look in your book if you need to. Okay, all right, that's all for today.